This next-gen demo is presented by State Farm.
All right, Rev3 Games at E3 at the Vivid booth. I am joined by Josh Bridge.
Hi.
You're executive producer on Dead Rising 3.
Correct.
I think one of the bigger surprises. This was not one that I was anticipating seeing, and it is an Xbox One exclusive, correct?
That's right, launching day one.
So you worked on Dead Rising 2.
Correct, yeah.
But how do you characterize the level of change in the game? Obviously, aesthetically, it's quite striking.
Yeah.
But how else have you shifted the design from 2 to 3?
Well, with all this next-gen power, everything you loved around Dead Rising 2 is just bigger, right? It's a bigger world, more stuff to play with, and now we've introduced vehicles as a big part of this big world that you're driving around, and through all that Xbox One next-gen goodness, we've just crammed so much detail into the game. You know, climbing and going into stores and looting and all those items, hundreds and hundreds of weapons to play with. We're just super excited.
All right, well, let's start looking at some of the video here.
Let's do it.
Obviously, what had always been a controversial aspect of the Dead Rising games was the time limit. It created a wonderful sense of tension, but some would argue that it did make the player play so cautiously as to not really get the full enjoyment. Is that in the game, or if not, sort of how do you replace it with something?
We were so divided as, core gamers at our studio. We're just like, do we like or don't like it? What we've done actually, we've taken the story mode and we split it between normal and nightmare. Normal just allows you to just explore at your own leisure, pace the story as you want, really dig into all the areas of the game and really level up, and that's a completionist play. We also have Nightmare, which just brings it back to Dead Rising 1 rules, right? One save file, got to piss in the washrooms only, and it's just brutal, right? And that keeps you on point, and that gives you that game as well. You can hit either mode right from the outset. You can hop between either if you want. They all go to one profile. So we try to find that balance.
So how do you design for two very, very different ways of approaching the game? I mean, obviously you have the open world that's there, but in terms of enemy placement and how the missions are designed, I mean, is it two different games in design as well?
Not really. I mean, they both follow the main story. Just when we designed it with that in mind. Right away, we just start thinking about, okay, all the pacing of all the side missions and all the timers and everything's all there, and all we did was just tune it in a different way so there was good separation, and that way we're not going off and creating two different games.
Now, also, Dead Rising, they kind of do it your own way, and it opens into such absurdish nonsense. Some people wonder with the aesthetic change, if it still has that kind of loony spirit to it.
Yes, absolutely, and actually this was intentional. Working with our art director, Alan Jarvie, he just wanted to push a much more gritty and dark look to it, and it was actually to add more contrast to when you find that comedy. When we came out of Dead Rising 2 and looking forward, we're like, you know what? We didn't want to come out looking cartoony and goofy, and then you may not find that funny. We wanted to have zombies are the threat this time. It's about a zombie game, right?
Right.
So they're deadly now. They're not just toys. So we wanted to get you in that mood, right? What you're seeing here with these, really dark sort of scenarios using lighting and all this next-gen stuff, it's totally cool. But there's comedy in there. It's all user-driven, right? And I want to make sure that when you evoke it, it's almost like photobombing the game, right? You create that crazy contrast, wearing a canary smuggler, I like to call it. You can throw that on, and then when you're appearing in cinematics that are so emotion-driven and charged, they're unaware that you're screwing up the whole feel of the game, and that's up to you to do now.
So it's like it's more absurdist than it is kind of Looney Tunes.
We try to go, as opposed to slapstick humor, we want to go for a darker humor. Right? So it actually just feels more ridiculous than ever.
It's a little more Beckett and Ionesco than Daffy Duck. The detail is so important to Dead Rising because of the things you collect, the way you can dress yourself and all that. When you're looking at what Next Gen allows, you have this, a much larger landscape. It also means you have to fill it with that much more stuff. I'm trying to get a sense, we've seen a handful of other open world games here. How do you do it so that you can still get a game done on time and not go absolutely crazy? I mean, that seems like a real issue that might have to be addressed this year.
I mean, well, first up is passion. And second up is time. It just takes longer to develop these experiences now, right? We're our own worst enemy.
Passion can turn to sociopathy at some point.
A bit. I mean, we're our own worst enemies as game makers. We just start geeking out and loving all the detail, and we find ourselves, oh my God, we actually have to do all this, right? And we start developing in ways to make sure that, we're not going to kill ourselves, we pace it, we figure out and plan how we're going to actually achieve this. But what we've done with this game, though, is same thing with other Dead Risings that we've made. we went for a handcrafted world again, right? Which is insane when you think of it, right? This is not like a cookie cutter world. We actually intentionally designed
is the only other crazy pants company that does something like that.
Yeah, so we handcrafted it. We're in this gym right now, Aduna's gym, and all this space is unique just to this location, right? Even the outside and this inside. So we went through a lot of that detail because how we see it is like, I want you to explore the world and eventually not even worry about the map, right? That you just start learning landmarks and it just feels like a familiar city.
So how are you using the next gen? Obviously it's a bigger space, much prettier.
Yeah.
But are you utilizing other things that it's able to do to kind of expand the gameplay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously what we're seeing here, I've noticed this in a lot of demos this week, you're seeing things that are very familiar. It's sometimes hard to show where it can go.
I mean, obviously outside of the sheer horsepower, like there's more zombies in here than ever before, and it's this bigger world, and obviously streaming, we've never been able to achieve this before. Just like seamlessly streaming, going in between all these areas, no load screens at all. And beyond that, on the Xbox One, we've been actually using Smart Glass now. Right, we've developed this unique feature. We showed you the stage, and you'll see later on in this, we end with a big bang, essentially. Everyday Joe, Nick Ramos, mechanic, how the hell did he get an airstrike to slap in there? So that we've developed a story. If you have your Smart Glass device turned on, you'll actually hear a character, a unique character, just for the Smart Glass device. You can put it to your ear and listen to him. And he's giving you missions. You can sort of figure out, oh, he's in another part of the city, and he's holed up looking at some military sort of compound. He doesn't even know what it all does. And then he works with you to help sort of hijack some of these materials to your neck of the woods. So it ends up being this little side game almost, right? You can you leave it on all the time, you go get calls.
And you see it as the player is actually utilizing the Smart Glass.
Yeah, you can, that's how we've been doing it. It all pumps out of your speakerphone of your device or your Surface speaker. You can leave it on the whole time. You'll get calls, listen to it, accept, you'll get information, hints, tips. There's other apps, you can unlock apps, you can skin it with wallpaper, ringtones, all that kind of stuff. And then, or you can just toss it to a buddy. It's like, hey man, help me out here. I'm in a pickle. We got this big airstrike coming in, just press that and help me out.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the Smart Glass applications that I've seen assume that there is a third person who's not even in the room or potentially even aware the game is being played. It's nice to see that. My final question, zombies.
Yes.
When the first Dead Rising came out, zombies were kind of the new pink.
Yeah.
They have now become not just the new black, they've become the new everything.
2013 is the year of the zombie.
I think 2012 and 2011 we're making a pretty good stab at that as well.
This year, yeah.
I mean, how do you distinguish yourself? You already have the legacy of the name of the franchise, but I mean, there is a case could be made about zombie fatigue. I mean, how do you sort of address that and be cognizant of that?
I mean, outside of just overwhelming you with the incredible numbers, it's actually that creativity, those combo weapons, carving the way you want to play. We put more emphasis on shooting so we can balance that out with melee combat, so they're both there in spades, and just kind of like being a kid in a sandbox and using your imagination to sort of mix and match things. All that is up to you to sort of discover. You're not just forced along a path doing a very specific set of things, right? It's just that freedom to be a kid in killing.
A kid in a very M-rated game.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Good, thanks.
First, before we go, it comes out with the Xbox One at the launch?
Absolutely. Day one launch, November 2013.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Remember, in real life, you can't just reload your last save. Take your insurance game to the next level. Visit statefarm.com.